Hi, and welcome back to our podcast, Best Friends and Their Books. I'm Tracy here with my co-host and best friend.
Shelby.
We're really excited to talk to you this month about our book of the month, good material, and other bookish things. So let's get started. What books have you read this month?
So this month I read quite a few things for me, at least. I was kind of in like a little bit of a lull. I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I don't think that was a new one. Let me see. Oh, it was new. It was from February. It was published on February 6th.
I've seen a lot of that on bookstagram.
Yeah, I liked it. I always really like Frida's books.
Yeah.
It was good, did not disappoint. Probably wasn't my favorite one, but I still liked it. The like twists at the end just always keep me coming back for more.
Yeah. I want to
Then
pick up one of her books.
yeah, I feel like they're like the Colleen Hoover of thrillers. Like they're very formulaic, they're easy reads. A lot of people would say they're corny or cheesy. A lot of people would probably say they're not good and stuff like that, kind of like how people go on about like Colleen Hoover and stuff like that. But I enjoy them. I don't know.
Yeah,
You like what you like.
for sure.
And then I read Bye Baby by Carola Lovering, and I loved that book so much. Like I haven't read a book that I liked that much in so long. So it was really like nice and refreshing to have that. And then lastly, I read our book of the month, Good Material by Dolly Alderton. How about you?
Um, I read Bye Baby last month, but I'm really excited that you read that this month. And then I joined the Magnolia Parks stratosphere. I don't know what to call it, her universe. So I started the first book, and then I have recently started the Daisy Hates book, which is like another character as the main character, like point of view. In the second book, I'm kind of annoyed because in like there's a multiple books in the series, and it goes like Magnolia's point of view, and then it goes to Daisy's point of view, and then back to Magnolia's, which like after like reading the first one and like hearing Magnolia, I wanted to just like continue with Magnolia because I'm so invested in that story, but now I'm taking a step back and jumping into Daisy Hates. And then I am about 85% done with Funny Story.
Do you like that?
Yes. I mean we've read Emily Henry before, and even our book of the month was Happy Place last summer.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of like her books because although they're not like 5-star necessarily reads for me, there's kind of like easy, fun like books.
Hmm.
And so I thought I'd give Funny Story a try, and I actually love it more than I've loved any of her books. I think I've
Oh,
read all of them besides People We Meet on Vacation. What is it? Vacation.
Beach read?
I've read Beach Read. I've read The Happy Place. I've read Book Lovers. There's what
Okay, I
the
haven't read Book Lovers and I haven't read Beach Read.
It's like the vacation one.
People We Meet on Vacation.
People We Meet on Vacation. Yes.
I have it somewhere on my shelf.
Yeah, that's the only one I haven't read yet. So I think after Funny Story, I might go back and read that one because so I can like have read them all because someone said that
Yeah.
like Funny Story that Beach Read or that People We Meet on Vacation is like more aligned with that one because I'm like
Hmm.
really, really loving the characters. And I believe that Emily Henry writes books for book lovers because there's so many like book like goodies that you get inside even like book lovers. Like there's just so many book goodies you get inside of her books that I don't really find in
Yeah.
their books. So I am really enjoying it.
Nice. Um, okay, we're going to hop into the synopsis for Good Material. It goes from the New York Times bestselling author of Ghosts and Everything I Know About Love, a story of heartbreak and friendship and how to survive both. Okay, I'm gonna skip that little like New York Times little bestselling blurb. Sorry. Um, Andy loves Jen. Jen loved Andy, and he can't work out why she stopped. Now he is without a home, waiting for his stand-up career to take off, wondering why everyone else looking, oh my gosh, I'm like, whew, going crazy. Waiting for his stand-up career to take off, wondering why everyone else around him seems to have grown up while he wasn't looking, set adrift on sea. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for Good Material. It goes, from the best-selling author of Ghosts and Everything I Know About Love, a story of heartbreak and friendship and how to survive both. Andy's story wasn't meant to turn out this way. Living out of a suitcase in his best friend's spare room, waiting for his career as a stand-up comedian to finally take off, he struggles to process the life-ruining end of his relationship with the only woman he's ever truly loved. As he tries to solve the seemingly unsolvable mystery of his broken relationship, he contends with career catastrophe, social media paranoia, a rapidly dwindling friendship group, and the growing suspicion that at 35, he really should have figured this all out by now. Andy has a lot to learn, not least his ex-girlfriend's side of the story. Warm, wise, funny, and achingly relatable, Dolly Alderton's highly anticipated second novel is about the mystery of what draws us together and what pulls us apart, the pain of really growing up, the stories we tell about our lives.
That's a really good synopsis. I see now why we picked the book. Although. All right. Well, jumping into the questions, first things first, how do you feel about Andy as the main character? Did you find him relatable or challenging to connect with?
He was a bit challenging to connect with as a main character for me. Well, first of all, because he's a guy.
Yeah.
But eventually, like, I warmed up to him, I will say. In the
Really?
beginning. Yeah, in the beginning. Also, well, okay, let me backtrack. The beginning of the book very much reminded me of Conversations with Friends.
Mhm.
Sally Rooney, I think, was the author. We read
Yeah.
it like 2 summers ago, I think, for the podcast.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of PTSD in the beginning. Like, I guess it's like the British dry, cold humor in a way. Doesn't translate as well for me sometimes.
Mhm.
My opinion completely changed by the end of this book. About that, but like in the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, this is reading like so familiar to
Yeah.
Conversations with Friends. So like when I had that like in my head at first, I was kind of thinking of Andy as just this like kind of boring, like blah blah blah,
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, like just meh kind of character.
Yeah.
But he actually had me like giggling a lot throughout the entire book. Like
Really?
I thought that he was pretty funny, even though he was like kind of a Debbie Downer. He was pessimist in certain ways and everything, and he was like very self-deprecating, but it ended up becoming more funny to me. Like honestly, towards even the beginning, like 25%, 30% in, I was like, okay, like I'm feeling for Andy, I guess.
Really? This is
A little
shocking.
bit like well, I feel bad with him for his like circumstances. You know, he is 35 and doesn't realize why his ex-girlfriend broke up. So you're only hearing from his side of the story. We don't know her side until the end.
Yeah.
Where we kind of learn a lot more about him. Not necessarily like terrible things or anything like that, but like we're
Yeah.
only hearing it for his side. And I'm like, oh, poor guy, you know? I don't
See,
know.
about the complete opposite. Like,
Oh.
I felt from the beginning at first, it's like, oh, he got dumped and he doesn't really know why. I kind of felt sad. And then as it's like going on in his story and he's like cringy. And I'm like, oh, I see
Yeah.
why. Like, you're like kind of a blob and you're cringy. And I can like, I
And
just
he
like
also
less
like,
and less liked him throughout the whole thing. I was like, oh God, dude.
I feel like he constantly was like self-sabotaging
Yeah.
too, but like I don't know why the way that it was written just came across kind of funny for me. Like it wasn't like I was like, you know, at him. I was just kind of like, it made me like laugh.
I don't know when he like texted his ex-girlfriend and was like, I'm sorry I broke your heart or whatever.
Oh my God, that was
Like,
so bad.
ew. And then like his new girlfriend, the way he like ended it, how like cringy that was. I was like, dude, like you are 35. Like you need to grow some like freaking intelligence, like emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. Like he just started grossing me out.
But I thought it was kind of like, it was cringy that he texted his ex-girlfriend that, like, after he had the realization of like, oh my God, that must be how I made her feel. Like, it was just so like, it was stupid funny, you know? It was just like, you're such a dummy
Yeah.
that it like made it funny. Like, that he like had this like realization like 4 years later to me. I don't know.
That's really
But
funny.
yeah. I thought he was pretty funny. I mean, I guess he should be if he's a comedian, but
Yeah, and
a
I thought that was
failing comedian.
I thought that was the satire of the whole book. I'm like, this guy's the least funny guy I've ever like followed, and he's supposed to be a comedian. I thought that was like the whole point.
His like, he's not funny. His life is funny. Like, Just stupid things happen to him. Like he gets talked into living on this little boat that
Yeah.
somehow doesn't sink with like getting all like all that water in the ground, or
Yeah. And I'm like thinking
just
like,
like
oh,
really
there's
unfortunate things happening to him.
that is, I love how differently we interpret that because I was thinking like, oh my God, why the fuck would you do that? Like, why are you being like this? Why are you like digging yourself into a further hole, dude? Like, I was like getting like
To me,
so
I was just like,
frustrated with
of
this
course you would rent out a boat from someone. Of course you would live with an
old man.
old man. Like,
Yeah. That's so funny because I was getting so frustrated with him. And it was like so hard for me to relate to him because like one, he's a male.
yeah,
Like, secondly, like I just haven't been through a breakup in a very, very long time. So it was like kind of hard for me to like go back into like that mindset and those feelings. So I was like
yeah.
having a hard time like relating to that as well. And like, would I in today's day, would I act like this if I
No, because he was like
yeah, like
acting ridiculous.
it was so ridiculous. The story is told it from Andy's perspective at the beginning. How do you think this influenced the understanding of the breakup and the events that unfolded? Did you perceive did your perception of the story change when Jen's perspective was revealed later?
Yes. Because I feel like in the beginning, like, I mean, like I said, it's not really like Team Andy, Team Jen,
Yeah.
because there was never anything bad about Jen. Like, he wasn't like, I just felt like
Spoke
Jen was
highly of her. Like
just,
he like
yeah, he spoke
loved
highly of her. Like,
her. Yeah.
she wasn't like the villain of this story or anything. But when I did read her like the last chapter where it was written by her, it made me see Andy differently,
Yeah.
like a lot. Like, it didn't really change my perspective too much on her.
Mhm.
But Andy, I was kind of like, oh my God, this little man child.
Yeah.
But I've just been like giggling at the whole time.
I
Like,
mean, like I kind of felt the same like when Jen came in at the end and like talked about her side, it like kind of like reiterated how I kind of already felt about Andy.
yeah. And
Like
I
yeah,
did know throughout the book that he was like a giant man child. But
yeah,
like when she would like put in like the reasoning, like, and like say like some things about him, like, oh, because Andy is like only cares about Andy. Andy only wants people to only view his jokes to make himself feel better. It's like she's spelling out like what he's showed us the entire time, but she's spelling it out like for the reader on like what his real like persona is, to when we see his side, it's just like funny, funny, haha. And
mhm.
when I see her side, I'm like, oh, he has some like uh self-esteem issues, or like all the other issues that like came out, like that was the demise of their relationship.
Yeah. I think when I was reading it from Andy's point of view, I was like, this is no one I'd ever want as a partner because I'm a woman, so I'm
No.
trying to think of it from like that side.
Yeah.
Like innately, like that's what I'm gonna think about, you know? And so then like when I read hers, it's like, yeah, exactly. Like this is like it's all like cute and funny from his point of view, but then like
Hmm.
yeah, I can like completely agree with where she's coming from and like why she made the choices that she made. Even though
1000.
it's hard for her too. Like it's not like she
Yeah.
had the way out. And that was shown through his side as well in some instances that she wasn't like having the time of her life.
Hmm.
Explore the role of Andy's comedy career in the story. How did this career challenge contribute to his overall character development, and how do you think it was a critical element of the narrative?
um so I like really thought it was kind of embarrassing for him that he was just such like kind of like a failed comedian. I don't
Yeah,
know when comedians typically pop off in their career. So like I don't know if 35 is like a young comedian, or like,
yeah,
I mean, I guess it could be kind of like, if you think about it, like, isn't Kevin Hart like in his 50s, or like Dave Chappelle, like aren't they in their like 50s? Like, and they're like successful. Like, I guess he could get to like a successful point if he keeps trying. I just, it like kind of felt like he was like beating a dead horse in his
yeah,
career. Like nothing was working out. He had so many odd jobs. It like became, as from a woman's perspective, to me, it was like kind of unattractive, like how he was trying. It's funny because they say like Jen found it like attractive that he was like going after his passion or whatever, but like I feel like after a while when he was just not succeeding in it, it just kind of became like icky to me.
yeah,
Like kind of gave me the ick. Kind of like, oh well, like are you gonna actually like, maybe you should like find like a different career and then do comedy on the side because you can do it
yeah,
at night or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, I think if
I don't
you like
know.
you're not
Not trying to be
successful,
hard, but
you want to continue to do comedy, then have it as a side gig and like have it as like a passion project. But like the fact that he was just like so hardcore pursuing it, and even his agent was like not teaming
yeah.
on it. It was like
She
so
wouldn't even
crazy.
answer him.
Yeah, and then like you're performing to crowds that are like not receptive of it. Like, don't you get the hint? Like
Yeah.
it feels like so total like white man like
Yep.
mentality where he just like didn't have any self-realization in the whole book
No.
of anything, including his comedy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Discuss the portrayal of Andy's living arrangements from sharing a room with a conspiracy theorist to staying friends with his house situation and reflect his state of mind and did it add to the story's humor?
I did. Like I said, I thought this definitely added to the story's humor about like, of course he would live on this like dilapidated boat. Of course he would move in with this like strange old man that's very like weird and wants his house to be a historic landmark and like writes and needs all these like signatures on his petition to get
Yeah.
it like recognized. Like of course like these like odd little things would
Mm.
all happen to Andy and living with Avi. I don't remember. I think that's his name. AVI, Avi,
Yeah, I
Avi,
think so.
his
Maybe.
best friend.
Yeah.
I feel like when he lived with Avi and Jane, like while he liked being with his close friends, I think it made him realize that like I gotta do something.
Yeah.
Like I gotta live by myself. Like I gotta basically like make like a escape route from this because I'm just living like in their like happy little cozy bubble.
Yeah.
And it made him realize more and more like that he was like heartbroken. So like while he had the support of his friend, it wasn't a very good living situation for him.
Yeah.
And I think it helped to live with Morris, the old man,
Yeah.
because he could kind of just do as he pleased.
Yeah, I kind of thought at the beginning he would just go live with his mom. Like that kind of seemed like the most like obvious.
Yeah.
I
But she
think
didn't live in London, right?
no,
It
she
made
did.
it seem like she was far away.
But I don't what does he have in London?
I don't know. That's the whole thing in the end. But also, I feel like throughout the whole book, like they were always taking trains to like friends and like the young girl's house and stuff and like to bars and everything. And everything was so far away. He'd be
Yeah.
like, I have to spend 2 hours on the train tonight. And I'm like, 2 hours on the train? Like, is
Yeah.
London that big? I don't know.
That's a good point. Like where were they going? I don't really know the dynamics of London, but that's not a very big. Like I've seen England compared to the United States, and it's like such like a minor thing. Like
Yeah.
Texas is bigger than all of Europe, so most of Europe. So I can't imagine. Like I don't really understand.
But do you remember in the book a lot how like they would always be like, oh, I have to take like 2 or 3 trains. It's like this many hours to travel home. Like even when they were like he was like out with his friends at
Yeah.
like bars and they're like, oh, I have to get home. It's like and it just seemed like long travel times.
Yeah, but
Or like
why?
if someone was like going in opposite directions, like
Yeah.
it was very the travel was very time consuming.
Yeah. That is a good point. But like I just feel like if he would have gone back home with his mom, it would have been a very boring story. But at least
But
like I feel like he would have just gotten over it a lot quicker. It would have been like taking him completely
yeah.
out of the situation, which
There are like zero distractions at his mom's house.
hmm,
I feel like he at least had like distractions, even though they weren't very helpful distractions. He had stuff to distract himself with
like he could have
in
just focused
London.
on himself at his mom's house. And that's what
Do
he needed.
what?
He needed to focus on himself. And he
That's
could come to
true.
his mom's house and just like
He had
focus
to
on
work on himself.
yeah, because he like did that whole like trainer stuff, like and he
Yeah.
was trying to work on himself, but like not really. Like it was like, just totally just cray cray. Analyze the use of social media in the novel, particularly in Andy's constant checking of Jen's profile. How did this behavior reflect contemporary methods of coping with breakups, and what commentary does it provide in modern relationships?
I feel like it was so interesting that like he felt the need to block her so that he didn't go to her profile. But then he found a way around his thing by just logging on through like an internet browser and
Yes,
looking at
it's
her
so
profile. So like it
cringy.
wasn't
It was
very
so
helpful at
cringy.
all.
I hated this so much. Disgusted me.
It's like I'm trying to think about like breaking up with someone and like the age of social media because it does add like this extra layerness. Like, do I unfollow this person? Do I block them? Do I don't take all their pictures off of my feed with each other? Like
Um,
there's like this whole like separate layer of like ending relationships and social media And it's like, I feel like I remember just like in the MySpace days, like you would just like take them off your top 8 and it's like,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah, delete them off your profile pics and then yeah. But
I don't know.
honestly,
I
I
don't,
think I'm still friends with all of my ex-boyfriends on maybe not Instagram, but like Facebook I am friends with all my exes.
I don't know. I'd have to like go through and look, but I don't think I'm friends with everyone.
I just
I
think
don't
that
know if it was me or if it was them.
yeah. I think in the
Some of
instant
them I am.
I block everybody because I'm like FUCKU, like I don't want to like you to see my shit. I want to see like it's like I'm not
Mhm.
blocking them because I'm trying to like avoid myself from looking at them. I blocked it because I literally just like want
Because you
nothing.
want to say like F you
Yeah,
and
I
block
want
them.
FU. Yeah.
It's
You
not
can
because you're keeping yourself
there.
away. That's
Yeah.
why I thought that that was like such like a weird way of putting it. And it was kind of weird that like the young person, the girl that he ended up dating, the 23-year-old, was the one that told him that's why you block people. And I was like,
You
really?
do.
I don't think that's why you block
I
people.
have not blocked someone in like the longest time, probably, but I don't know. Like I especially if I blocked them, like there's no way I would like go around that look for the like I don't want to try that hard. Like the fact that he
No.
went through to find her anyway, it's like then why did you block her to begin with?
I want to look like I care the least, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And not taking any action at all, like, would
Yes.
probably be my like the route that I take.
I think if it was like at this day and age and it was a breakup, I think I would just like unfollow them. So like I wouldn't see their stuff, but they could see mine. And so it would look like I mean, I don't see their thing, but like they can see me and it just looks like I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back in the day, I was very like F you kind of person. But that wasn't Andy's like MO. Like he
No,
wasn't like that at all. So
not at all.
that was a very interesting thing. And I think about it, like my husband isn't even on social media. So if like if it's happened in like real time, like it wouldn't matter for me even to this day. But I just can't, I don't know. It's like such a weird concept.
It is because everyone's so different in how they would
Yeah.
choose
It's like
to
too, it's
have
like
that
hard
layer.
because like if I got blocked from that person, I'd be like, oh, they're saying F you to me. But in his instance, he wasn't. He was just doing it for himself. So like because I'm like giving into like what I think, it's like altering what actually the reality is.
Yeah.
It's like very silly because like everyone has this different like meaning of these things and it like doesn't matter because everyone's gonna perceive it differently.
Yeah.
Um Examine the humor of the novel. Focus on specific instances or comedic elements that stood out to you. How did the author balance humor with the serious themes of heartbreak and self-discovery?
Um, I don't like I said before, I did think that this was a pretty funny book. It had me laughing a lot. Um, and it's just like kind of like a weird, like dryish, I guess maybe British humor, which I didn't think I would like,
Mhm.
but I ended up liking it. And I guess it like was kind of like a way to take like a heartbreak, something that's very sad,
Mhm.
and turn it into something happy.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I just like there was definitely so many just instances of funny things that happened. Like when he was searching, it was like his chat with Jen, and he was like typing in like certain
Oh,
words.
yeah.
And he was like, well, when I'm feeling like I miss her, like I type in like love and like miss you and stuff to just bring up those happy memories. And then he's like, when I was like feeling like horny, like I would type in the word cock. And he accidentally sent that word to her and she was like question mark. Like,
Oh no.
I'm sorry, that was so funny, like just stupid
That
funny.
is
Like
so bad.
like so bad. And it just like made me laugh so much. And there was okay, I took like a I like highlighted some of like the funny parts and I thought this was just a funny line. It was like just Googled. It was when his
Oh
that
gosh.
like written piece came up about him
Yeah.
that was like tearing apart his comedy towards like kind of like the mid to end book. And it was like person commented, just Googled Andy Dawson, didn't know who he was, but now can't get it out of my head that he looks like the sort of guy who takes the biggest piece of lasagna without serving anyone else. I don't know why that's like funny to me. It's so stupid, but it's funny.
No, I did enjoy the dry humor. Like I really
Yeah.
did. Like
Like bits of like funniness.
but like it just I don't know. I think like because Andy just like had no self-realization, it pissed me off because he couldn't like laugh
Yeah.
at himself, you know?
Yeah.
So that, and like as a comedian too, that's probably why he's unsuccessful, because I feel like you should be able to like laugh at yourself
Hmm.
and like make these like really weird hard times like comedic as a comedian.
Yeah.
But
And
he didn't
eventually he
do that.
finally like used his heartbreak for good at the
Yeah.
end
Yeah, finally he did, but like
for
throughout,
his career,
I'm
I
like,
mean.
dude, like you are a comedian. Like this, you should be more like comedic of yourself.
Yeah.
But um Andy relies heavily on his friends, especially Avi, during the breakup. How did the novel depict the dynamic of male friendships and emotional support? Do you think the stories address the stereotypes surrounding men and vulnerability?
I thought that this part was very interesting, especially like comparing it to like how Jen's friends surrounded her for the breakup. Just letting her talk about the entire thing for like the whole weekend at that spa retreat. And
Yeah,
Andy was kind of like barely could get his friends all together as it was. And when he did, it was like no one wanted to talk about it.
yeah,
But he had like all these like emotions that were like literally bubbling over in him. And he was like, I can only like I have like 10 tokens on how much I can talk about like Jen or like my feelings and stuff. And like he was afraid to kind of bring everything up with them and like how many times he was allowed to discuss it with his
yeah,
friends. It was very, he was having such an internal battle. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't, maybe that's just like a part of like the male stereotype and stuff. But I feel like he had a lot of like feelings and like to him, they were of course valid and everything. But he knew that his friends couldn't support him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because like his friends were in different like spaces in their
Hmm.
lives. But that's the only thing I can think of. But I was like, because he kept being like, "Oh, I'm at the like, I want to go out for a drink and like check my friends. Are they available?" And that was like instead of him like sitting down and having these like deep conversations, that's how he was kind of coping with it.
Yeah. He had
Um,
so much like internal like
yeah,
monologue that was
yeah, and I think it's also hard because Avi's wife was Jen's friend too. So it's not even like
Mhm.
he had his like separate group of guys that was like separate from Jen. Like I feel like it was all
Yeah.
like, intertwined, which also made it hard for him to like just fully like let go and like be himself in this situation. Um, which is why I think he needed a therapist. Like,
Yeah. Even though he went to like the fake route of
yeah, the fake group of therapy when I was like, dude, you need the the
like
real
it was like so because he wanted to see what they would say, what they would tell Jen.
like what is wrong with you? This is like
Like he's
total
just like
like
so crazy, weird. It was just funny.
oh man, Andy. Um like this question kind of piggybacks off that. How did the book handle the theme of toxic masculinity, particularly in relation to Andy's struggles and expressing emotions and dealing with the breakup?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is kind of like the last question. I just feel like he didn't feel like he could talk to his friends about it and he kept wondering why. Like
Yeah.
he's like I want to say all these things, but he didn't feel like they cared,
Yeah.
which kind of stuck. And it was kind of interesting that at the end, like his other friend was broken up with and like he felt like such like a like
Connect.
a connection, yeah, with him and like wrote him that whole letter about like and then at the end of it he was like we don't have to talk about this letter.
Like
Like it
why
just like further it just like further like goes along with like the I guess we can't like discuss our feelings type of thing.
I
But
hate
like I'm
it
here for you, bro.
so much. It's like you aren't afraid to act like a complete imbecile because of your emotions, but God forbid you talk about them. Like
Yeah.
what is happening? I do feel like this book is like, a parody of like toxic masculinity. Like it's written by a woman. So it's like I feel like
Yeah.
obviously her playing it up more so to like really hone in on like I said, like Andy has this like complex of like a typical like I can do no wrong white male and has
Hmm.
like, no self-realization, and that comes out in so many instances, although he is internally struggling. So it's like not like I'm a white male and everything's perfect and I don't have any problems, but like he has these like deep problems, but it comes out in like nothing that he does because he's just so oblivious to like why he's acting the way he's acting.
Yeah.
And
No, you're so right.
it's insane to me, and I think that's like where my frustrations like were lying with this book, but it is funny because I think it was purposeful. So
Yeah.
The book explores the aftermath of a breakup and the different stages of grief. How does the author depict Annie's journey through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance?
Well, I feel like he was like kind of all out of order with
Yeah.
the like grief journey. Like I don't feel like he ever really like bargained with her. Like he was never really like begging for her back,
Mhm.
but like he definitely had like a lot of like the like denial, like waking up every morning and being like, "Oh, this is my reality." Like realizing it was his reality.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like his acceptance was like pretty much the entire book was like how he was like accepting and moving
Right.
forward.
Yeah. And depression.
Yeah.
I think there were instances of denial in there. Like I can't remember specific examples, but I do remember a couple times he was kind of in denial. And like just but most of it was like anger, depression, acceptance, like all torn into one. Like it wasn't, I
Yeah.
don't feel like he went through like stages of each. I feel like it was just like this like tornado effect of all of them.
Yeah. I feel like that's like encapsulates him as a whole. Like he's just like a tornado of a person.
That is very true. Were there moments in the story where you strongly disagree with the character's choices or actions, and how do these flaws contribute to the authenticity of the narrative?
Well, when him and Jen like ended up after the Jane and Avi's kid's birthday party, Jen and Andy ended
Mhm.
up taking like the train to like a bar, and then like they like were telling stories that they like wanted to talk about with each other, and I was like, I feel like we're getting into like murky waters.
Yeah.
Like, and then they went home with each other, and
Mhm.
obviously you know what happened. But I do feel like it did contribute to the authenticity of the like of a breakup, because like a lot of times people do give that person like a second chance.
Mhm.
A lot of times people do try it out again, whether it's like as a relationship or like hooking up again or like, you
Yeah.
know, having sex with them again. I feel like that's very like a natural like human thing to do. So many people do it. I would be more surprised if like
They did.
people had like any relationship in their life where they hadn't like dipped
Mhm.
their toes back in for like a second, you know? But like
Yeah.
as the reader, um I you know, you're disagreeing with it because you know that that's not right for both of them.
Yeah. I do think it like did. It added to the authenticity of it. I think Andy's flaws like could have made it feel more authentic, but I think they were so flawed that they just made it like not opposite. Like they weren't as authentic because it was like left field flaws.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely disagree with his choices a lot. And
Mhm.
like I said, it made for a good book. Like, although it
Yeah.
might not have added like to the authenticity of it, it did add to like the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Explore the themes of social expectations regarding relationships and gender roles. How did the character conform to or resist these expectations, and what message did the author convey about societal norms?
I feel like this book definitely talked a lot about societal like norms and expectations, about how like basically like past 35, like and having kids and a family and everything and being broken up with or divorced at like 35, how that's kind of like a like ah stage
Yeah.
or whatever if that happens to you. And like when we get further into like Jen's chapter, I feel like is when it kind of talks a lot about it more because she is the one with the eggs. And she even goes to like the fertility specialist and is kind of told like, oh, well, you need to have children like right away. Like if you want them, your like egg reserve is low.
Yeah.
Um, and she talks about how like all of her friends were pregnant. And she had that like one friend who like wasn't pregnant. And then
Mhm.
she finally got pregnant and it kind of like really like hit her all at once because like this is kind of like the age like when everyone is starting their families. And like she didn't really like see herself doing that.
Yeah.
Like having a family, being married, like she kind of just like, let me try out having a relationship because that's what society says I should do at this age. And
Yeah.
then she like went and found Andy and like loved Andy, obviously, even though he had all these flaws, but she like loved him. But then she was like, no, I'm just like better off alone, which is like not in the societal norm.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I mean, Andy had his flaws, but like everyone has flaws, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
not like claiming Andy's flaws are more or less like what other people have. Like the point of like being in a relationship is like accepting people's flaws, which for Jen, like, I mean, that's like all in your prerogative. If she didn't want to accept his flaws, that's fine. Like that was like that's who you're living with. So it's like totally fine. But
Yeah.
I do feel like she was more hesitant to like be accepting of other people's flaws because I think that she
Mhm.
was, which is great for her. She was so confident in like being like herself and being with herself that she
Yeah.
was like, I'm not gonna accept mediocre. I'm not gonna accept lower than like what my
And I
standard.
think like her dad kind of ruined it for her too. We learned
Yeah.
that little piece about her dad at the end,
Yeah.
and maybe she thought like, mm, rather not. No, thanks. Like I'd rather just be by myself if stuff like that's gonna happen because she
Yeah.
viewed her parents as happy, and then she saw that and like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
and
Her
like what her
grandma too.
grandma.
Yeah. Which is just like this like more empowerment for her, which I'm so glad that she felt instead of like getting into like a relationship with Andy, bringing children into this world and then deciding
Mhm.
this like later down the road. Like I'm so proud of her that she realized this like now. And I
Yeah.
think like more power to her, although it's not societal norms, like there is no like right way to live our lives. Like,
No.
and like I think that everyone needs to be more accepting of that.
Yeah. I agree. It definitely like the book was had a lot of like societal pressures and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Which is like
Interesting to think about.
it is so interesting to think about because I like personally like myself have never felt that way. Like I had
Hmm.
children like fairly young, got married like very young, and I've never felt what she felt, but I love like looking into that point of view and like knowing and understanding that there's like other people out there that obviously feel differently than I felt or like live differently.
Yeah.
Like that's totally like great. Like that's why we all are independent humans. Like we can do
Yeah.
whatever you can do whatever you want, and that should be more widely accepted. So I think like books like this, like that's why that's so important. And it's so important to see Jen's side. Like I
Other
was
people.
so happy to see like both sides of this situation.
Hmm.
Analyze the supporting characters such as Andy's friends and family and how did they contribute to the overall narrative and did their perspective enhance the depth of the story?
Yeah, I feel like every character, every side character was very interesting and they had their place.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, like I didn't really like, keep track in my head about like all of Andy's friends,
Yeah.
like Matt, Rob, John, like they were
Yeah.
all kind of the same person to me.
Mhm.
And that didn't really like matter in the story, except for Avi. He mattered. I don't know. I feel like everyone was so important. Like his mom was like kind of like a soft character and like was like there for him. Um, Jane and Avi were kind of like voices of reason for
Mhm.
both Jen and Andy.
Yeah.
Um, the girl, I don't know if it was Sophie or Sophia that he
Yes.
dates. Like I feel like she has a purpose in the story too, as kind of just this like young girl that everything that she says is like, oh, cringe, oh, cringe, oh, cringe. It was
Like
cracking me
I
up. I was like,
I
oh my
my
God, like
mom
let the
like
man live, let him be himself.
like
He's
typical
13 being.
Gen Z. Like in my
Yeah.
mind, like I'm like, yep, she's a Gen Z. Like everything that came out of her mouth. I even think that it's so funny because he had that like fake girl Tara too.
Tosh.
Tosh, okay. And then we find at the
And
end that it was Jen.
that was cracking me up.
That was very comical. And that kind of goes back to like the world of social media too, because like you can go feral on the internet if you want to.
Yeah.
Like they did, and I liked like seeing that little tidbit as well. But
I
like
also, oh,
no, so go on.
I like when we were reading about the relationship of Sophie and Andy,
Mhm.
um, okay, not everyone that listens to this is going to understand this reference, but I it was giving Schwartz and his new girlfriend from Vanderpump Rules.
Yes.
That is the only person I like. I do not know like anything about like his new girlfriend. I just know she's like a young 23-year-old and he's like a 40-year-old. And
Yeah.
it was like the dynamic was like this is Schwartz and his new girlfriend.
Yes.
Sorry, I
And
had to get that out there.
I did kind of feel like throughout, like I did compare Andy to Schwartz.
Yeah, he was very Schwartz like.
Yeah, like little Peter Pan boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can do no wrong. These crazy things I
Little
do.
Peter
No,
Pan boy.
nothing's wrong with this.
So funny.
Discuss the structure of a novel, including the altering perspectives and the dual endings. How did the narrative technique impact your engagement with the story, and did it provide unique storytelling experience?
Yeah, I actually kind of liked how we didn't hear from Jen at all throughout the story. So we're only hearing from Andy, we're only hearing his perspective. And then at the end, we just get this like last chapter of Jen and we
Mhm.
see everything through like the woman's point of view, which is obviously like a little bit more relatable as
Yeah.
a woman reader. Um, I did feel like it was like a very unique storytelling experience, because a lot of times books will go like back and forth between them and you're like, oh, who do I side with, like, you know, and it's like, and at the end you're just like, bam.
Yes, the woman got the last word. Like I
Oh
was like,
yeah, I like
I was
that.
so happy with that. Like that she was just like this silent, like good character. Like we said before, like
Mhm.
there was nothing wrong about her. We didn't hate her. It was like she had to like prove herself. She just got to like enhance the story, which I really enjoyed. Like she wasn't defending herself. It wasn't like anything. It was just like
No,
this enhancement.
she did it so well, but she like read him to filth.
Yes. In the most joyful, like elegant, beautiful
Yes.
way.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, Jen.
Oh my God, I'm like, I like enjoyed that so much because like throughout the book, I wasn't enjoying it that much.
Hmm.
What really revived how I felt was Jen's part. Like it really like
Yeah.
me back and I was like, oh yeah, this is a good book because I really enjoyed those last like 2 or 3 chapters with her.
Yeah. And you didn't even know that it was turning into her. At
No, it
least,
was like a shock all of a sudden. I was like, what? Like,
yeah, I was reading it as if I was still him, and then I was like, wait, this is from her point of view.
yeah, that
I
was great.
liked it.
Consider the chapters of Jen and the narrative decision to reveal her perspective later in the book. How did this impact your understanding of her choices and feelings, and did it alter your perspective of her as a character?
I feel like this is kind of like we just answered that with the last one. But maybe um like why Dolly Alderton would reveal her at the end instead of like throughout the book. Um, I don't know. I guess because you like you were saying earlier, like Andy had like all these kind of, I don't know exactly like how to word it, but you said something earlier where he was I guess from like the outside looking in was kind of like a joke
Yeah, he
in
has
a
no
way.
self-reflection.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm having a hard time with this one, but it's like in my head I just can't get like the words out.
Yeah, I can see like you're seeing this from like Andy's point of view, yes, but you're seeing him having no reflection of his actions. Like he has no
Yeah.
self-reflection. And then all of a sudden you have this character come at the end like sit down. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna show all of the reflection that you should have had this whole time of yourself. And I really do feel like it was such like a good like ending. Because
Yeah.
like I don't know, I can't even imagine how else this would have ended because it would just ended with Andy like womp womp womp. I don't know what I did wrong. Womp, womp, womp. But like Jen
Yeah.
came in and really just shut it down and was like, this
And
is
then she also kind of like when she was describing him, it just feels like we like always have to protect Andy's feelings.
and that's what I feel like, yeah.
And
The whole book, it's like you as a reader are like subconsciously protecting Andy's feelings.
yeah.
Yeah. It like I think she really opens it up and like lets even the reader like reflect on Andy
Hmm.
more so than he was like allowing the reader to do throughout the book.
Yeah.
Because it's hard when you're like reading it from someone's point of view, you try so hard as a reader to
To like the main character
like
and
them, to be on their side, try to
relate to them.
relate, understand what they're going through, be empathetic. And I
Yeah.
really liked that was like shut down quick. Towards the end of the story, did you find yourself empathizing more with Andy or Jen? How did the narrative structure influence your understanding? And did your empathy shift over the course of the novel?
Yeah, I towards the end I definitely empathized more with Jen. There was never a point where I disliked Jen at all. But once I saw everything from her point of view, I was like, yep, he's like a typical male who's not going to grow up. And while he was very funny and his like circumstances were funny and
Yeah.
like his life was just kind of fun. Maybe he wasn't funny, but like his life was like kind of funny and like as a reader you're kind of like, "Oh, poor little Andy." And
Yeah.
then you read at the end and you're like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
just another guy."
Yeah. I feel like through the book, I don't think I empathized with Andy because I think I was just like, grow up. Grow up.
Yeah.
Like you're 35. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But I do think like at the end I never empathize towards Jen either because I didn't really know her point of view.
Yeah.
Although I didn't like dislike her or like really like think about her as much as like,
And we didn't know that she was like heartbroken throughout most of the book.
yeah, because she's the one that like broke up with him. So I didn't really empathize on her because it's not like she got her heart broken in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like she's a strong woman that did what she needed to do to move
Hmm.
on. And so then when I read the end, I did empathize more with Jen.
Yeah.
Um, so overall, what was your rating?
So I gave it a 5 on Goodreads. in real life, 4.5.
Okay. I think I gave it a 4 on Goodreads. No, I gave it a 3 on Goodreads.
Yeah, you did. I checked earlier. When I finished, I was like, oh my God, I know Tracy's either gonna love it or hate it. And I had to check and I was like, uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I think honestly I was gonna give it a 2. Because I was gonna go
Until Jen's chapter?
until Jen's chapter. That redeemed it to me to a 3. I just hated Andy so much. And I have a really hard time with books. Like I see the point and I know why Andy was Andy, but when books that I'm reading them, if I can't like sympathize or like have that with the main character, I have a really hard
Yeah.
time getting through it. And it like was hard for me to get through it with Andy. I just disliked everything he did, everything he said. I was like disgusted with him.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, I read this book much quicker than I've read a lot of books recently.
Mhm.
But I like didn't feel like, oh, I gotta go like read this book, you know, like
Yeah.
sometimes how you can get, and especially because like obviously we do a podcast, so we have like deadlines and stuff, you
Yeah.
know. But like I didn't feel like I was excited to pick this book up every time I was reading it. And
Really?
like I was like thinking about it a lot even when I wasn't reading, which is kind of strange because it wasn't very like action
Mhm.
forward, like which is normally what kind of books keep my attention and like keep me picking them up, is like that's why I like thrillers a lot, because like boom 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 stuff is happening. And this
Yeah.
one wasn't really like that. So I was like kind of surprised, but yep, 4.5 for me.
Okay. I would say now like maybe 3.5. Not that we've like talked about it and I can like think through. I would say like
Mhm.
3.5. But I was like really bummed at the beginning. Like at the
Yeah.
after I
I
read
was turned off in the beginning.
like yeah, the beginning when I started reading, but then even after I read it, I was like, oh. I don't know. I was like, okay, I can move on with my life now, kind of feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Mhm.
I do think it like added really good like content for us to discuss. Like I do feel like now that we're
Yeah.
talking through, it's like feels like more to me. So
It's definitely a really good like book club book. There's a
yeah.
lot to discuss, a lot of themes, a lot of,
Hmm.
you know, the characters weren't perfect by any means. They were very fun to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Which
Which
leads
brings
us
us, oh,
to yeah.
our May book. We chose, well, actually the Instagram poll we did chose Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez.
I have it right here. I've actually
Very
never read
excited.
an Abby Jimenez book,
Oh, I
so
have.
yeah, I
Oh,
remember.
good.
Yeah, I'm excited because I've got one recently, my book of the month, and it was like a sequel. So then I never committed to reading both of them, but this one stands alone. So wait, doesn't
Oh, I thought this was part of your world number 3. On Goodreads, that's what it says. But I don't think you need to know the other books.
okay, okay, I'll
It
have to
says
look.
in parentheses part of your world number 3. Maybe like we can, if you're listening to this and you follow us on Instagram, send us a message and let us know if you know the
Yeah,
answer to this, obviously. Do we
okay,
need to read part of your world number 1 and part of your world number 2, which have different titles?
okay,
I don't
yeah.
know what part of, I'm gonna look up on Goodreads.
I think it's part of your world number like is the first one, and the second one is like not just for summer. It's like I bought it. It's the big red cover.
Um, Yours truly
Yours truly. Yeah. So I have yours
is
truly.
number,
Okay. Shoot.
yeah. I
Okay.
think
Well,
it'll be okay. Yeah, on Goodreads it does say part of your world number 3.
dang. Because that's why I didn't read yours truly was because it said like number 2, and I was like, oh shoot, I never read number 1.
Yeah.
We'll have to look into this deeper.
Um, yeah, we need to do a little bit of um a check on this. But for right now, our book next month is going to be Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And if it's not, you'll know.
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Bye. See you next time.